This Fleet Equipment Unscripted interview is presented by Hendrickson, a leading manufacturer of heavy-duty suspension systems and components to the global commercial transportation industry. Visit hendrickson-intl.com to learn more.
Hi everyone, I'm Jason Morgan, Content Director for Fleet Equipment, and welcome to Fleet Equipment Unscripted. Today we're talking with Tesi Bravo, Deputy Director of EnergIIZE, a group within CalSTART. Tesi, thanks for taking the time to talk.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here and looking forward to a nice productive conversation.
Yeah, all revolving around electric charging infrastructure, which is a huge, huge topic. You're doing a lot of work out there. I know you're in California. There's a lot of development going out there. So I just kind of want to lay some groundwork here. We're seeing battery electric vehicles, especially in the commercial space, right? Commercial trucks starting to take off in California quite a bit. When we talk about this, though, we often talk about the fleet's responsibility to install charging at their location. But I know that the conversation around public charging availability is starting to ramp up as well. From your view out there in California, how much public charging for medium and heavy-duty vehicles specifically is currently available?
In short, I would say not enough. And the reason for that is that we always need more, right? If we think about fleet duty cycles, that come through, and we have routes for vehicles that need to maybe charge en route. This is important to the vehicles to get moving. This means that we need public sites available. So we estimate on our EnergIIZE program, actually, which provides funding to fleets of medium and heavy duty, that we're around 25 to 30% public out of all applications that have been funded. So that sounds like a pretty good amount, but if you consider we've only funded about 120 projects, that doesn't give a whole lot by region, right? So you make the numbers sound really great, or you can look at it as we still need more. The reason that we'll always need more, again, as registration grows, right, as policy changes the fleet industry and the medium and heavy duty industry, we need to provide and build out the infrastructure, much like you would build out roads or build out gas stations as we're going through. So the answer is always more. We're doing a lot. We've done what we can, but we could definitely use more for medium heavy duty, either public or even innovative infrastructure, like business to business sharing, for example, or charging as a service models, things that allow fleets of medium heavy duty applications to be able to stop en route and charge vehicles so they can get across country, for example, or even across the state.
Right, for sure. A lot to dig in there, though. I love the comment about the gas stations, because there's one on that corner and that corner and that corner, and no one asks questions about it. You kind of expect it. Opportunity charging. I know fleets really plan their routes and want to make sure that they can get where they're going and then back or wherever they need to charge next, but that opportunity charging can make a load of difference and also open the doors for a lot of people where, to your point, maybe that point-to-point just isn't far enough with the technology right now if they had some more public charging. So what are you looking at in terms of need over the next, let's say, 2, 3, maybe even 5 years as we look as battery electric vehicles come into the market in a bigger way? How much public are we going to need going forward in the next couple of years?
Yeah, and I appreciate that question so much, because we, within California, we have mandates and we have policies that drive the need, right? And the more we can think about infrastructure before the fleets or before the actual EVs or the ZEV vehicles that are coming to ground, the more prepared we're going to be, right? So to prepare for that, we absolutely need to forecast and look ahead. And so if we consider that large percentages of diesel fleets are going to be eliminated by 2036, then, I mean, by vehicle registration, we're going to need to increase. However, that's not the 2 to 5 year mark. So we're in this unique space that's almost floating that doesn't have a firm requirement right now. And the folks that get ahead in this opportunistic time, those are going to be the ones that really excel. And that's corridors, right? Corridors that are providing public charging stations for pass-through states, right? Between, Nevada and California, or California, Arizona. They have an opportunity to build, be ahead of the curve, right? And start early and get stuff to ground really early. So really looking at infrastructure before the registrations increase is imperative. And again, so within 2 to 5 years, we might be very similar to where we're at now, maybe a slight percentage increase. But if you're looking at a curve, right, you're going to hit this big wall that needs to go up as you reach 2035, 2036. And getting fleets ahead and prepared for that by getting infrastructure in the ground is both an opportunity and a challenge. The opportunity rests with the states, the cities that want to put infrastructure in the ground to gain this business, right, and create new routes that go through the corridors. And on the flip side, ones that don't, those are going to be where we're falling behind and we've got to catch them up later. So looking for a heavy increase by 2035, 2036. How much we prepare before then is really up to the industry, the fleets, and what we're trying to drive to get stuff to ground.
Right, right. Well, and if you think back 2 or so years ago when electric, heavy duty electric vehicles were coming to the market, it was always that chicken or egg conversation of what comes first, the infrastructure or the vehicles or, whatever. And now the vehicles are here. I mean, manufacturers are supporting them. You see Volvo trucks in the second generation of their vehicles. You see Freightliner continuing to develop and push the e-Cascadia technology, just to name a few. The trucks are here, and now to your point, the infrastructure has to come. And that's kind of a larger world, right? To your point, that's legislators and states and all that. When we talk about charging infrastructure a lot of times in the fleet world, we know lead time is big. We know that it's going to be different state to state, utility to utility. But what are some of the challenges unique to public charging infrastructure that fit that medium and heavy duty vehicle? How difficult is it to get that off the ground?
So there's a couple key factors or elements that go into answering that question. And I always like to start with something we so commonly hear in California, which is location, 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 right? So you need a lot of square footage. For example, a class 6 through 8 vehicle is going to look a lot different in site design than a class 2B vehicle or a light duty passenger vehicle. If you look at travel centers that exist across the nation, you'll see some of them have a semi side, right? And the semi side design is quite different than the light duty design. And so understanding that in application, right? We're going to need faster chargers for semis. We're going to need centers, amenities to allow for everything to be almost equal to what we have now, right? To really gain adoption and fast track the adoption. And we are starting to see that within, EnergIIZE and the applications that we get to provide infrastructure. But I think that piece maybe hasn't been thought about heavily until you get to ground and you're backing up a class 6 vehicle and it logistically it doesn't work, right? Because it now you have to park them side by side. Things like dual port application for chargers or accessories don't come to mind until an afterthought. So all of these things need to be estimated early to get to ground. And I really think that locational or square footage design for a lot of ZEV vehicles is something that is a hurdle, specifically in urban areas or California areas, right? If you don't have the square footage for a pull-through site, then it becomes very challenging to build a public site for medium heavy duty applications. And then adoption, right? So as new technology comes out, it's always challenging to adopt new technology. You constantly have small hurdles or items that come up that need to be adjusted and fixed. And those small hurdles can feel like unanticipated challenges to fleets that are actually trying to get it to ground, right? And that in and of itself is a hurdle, not having the resources. If we don't have resources within the fleets that is a specialist to lead a project and understand all the pieces, these become hurdles. So you have location hurdles, right? Site design. And you also have hurdles, I won't call it resistance, because I don't think by nature humans are outright resistant to change, but I do think that we as an industry need to provide the benefits and a value add, or at least equal to what we have now, to be able to demonstrate use case for these scenarios, right? That means grid, utility, all of that needs to align. The stars need to align, so to speak, to get these projects to ground quickly and kind of foster mainstream adoption of them.
For sure. I want to go back to something you said earlier that I found really interesting about B2B charging or developing sites. And when I hear that, I immediately think, okay, fleet A kind of opening up charging opportunities for fleet B. Is that conversation happening, or is it also in terms of, I don't know, I'm an office complex that's thinking about putting in charging for my employees, but do I think about being able to provide for larger vehicles too? What is that B2B conversation like?
I would like to see a lot more of it,
Yeah,
actually. And as we look at these items, if I'm a fleet and I buy a bunch of high powered DC chargers and I'm behind a gate, if I don't have vehicles on those chargers, could I share those chargers with another business, right? Another
right,
small business? Could we create and network a route service, a unit that is helpful to each other, right? And
right,
you're always going to have downtime on some of these chargers because you may have vehicles out, for instance, on the field and they're not charging there. That is an opportunity to open that service as a shared unit or a
right.
shared charger for fleets that are going through. And we don't see a lot of that conversation happening yet, but there is definitely an opportunity for it. And it's something that I talk about every opportunity that I get, for example, right? Because the business to business networking amongst ourselves is definitely one of the easiest ways to expand outreach and to also provide or be a resource to communities that have equal interests in, for example, moving to an EV fleet.
Right, right. Well, yeah, and I mean, even just as you're talking there, it makes sense going back to your pillars or things that you look at, like site design, right, and location. You mentioned behind the fence. Maybe I don't want people behind my fence at a certain area, so I think, okay, well then I need to put my site here, right, or I need to design it this way instead, and kind of keep my fence where it's at, but also maybe make this available as a revenue driver as well.
Yeah,
Interesting things
exactly.
to think about.
Sorry. Yeah, so profit wise, it's mutually beneficial, right? if
Right.
if the route supplies a charger to a vehicle that needs it, that is on that route by duty cycle, and if you can charge to use the site, then you offset the power cost that goes with it. And again, mutually beneficial, it is how I see business to business sharing. And I do think there's big opportunities for it among fleets that want to transition early.
Right, right. Well, let's dive into that too, because you're doing a lot of great work out there. You're getting chargers in the ground. You're doing a lot of consulting, having these conversations, getting things moving. Fleets have the ability to pull projects through, right? That demand can pull projects through in a really big way. What does that mean? The public infrastructure charging. What can fleets do to bring a public angle to their plans?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that ties well into the business to business sharing, right? Even
Hmm.
if that's not true public, you're still sharing with a number of fleets. Let's say
Right,
you pick two or three that you know are going to have similar routing. That's one aspect for sure that happens early. Another thing that I think we could do to help the industry is to plan early and create a project team, right? A project
right,
team of shared resources that could be working on several projects, right? But the project team overall should tackle infrastructure early on and as early as possible, meaning when we're looking to transition and we're looking at electric vehicles, we should also be looking at infrastructure. The lead times for projects, just by data, are roughly 13 to 14 months is what we're looking at right now, and these are for larger sites. So you have large variances. If we are planning for smaller sites that are overnight charging, those don't take as long to get to the ground historically. But as we start moving to DC charging and most of the requirements that we identify could be useful for public sites, then we need to start looking at these a bit differently, right? And now your lead times extend. We've also created high demand on utilities and also electrical supply houses, right?
right,
We're asking for switchgear, we're asking for transformers, we're asking for these in quantities that might be burdensome to the supply chain because it's a huge spike. So it's great, it's good, we need to have business, and it creates money, it gives money back to the economy. But it's a hurdle that we have to overcome. So I think to do that, when we're looking to transition and we're looking at vehicles, which are now, as you identified earlier on, right, pretty much readily available. You can start to look to transition. If you don't have infrastructure, then we can't charge the vehicle that we're getting. We can't go to Best Buy, for example, and get a charger and stick it in the ground and call it a day, right? We have to make sure that we establish a project team early. We have the utility engaged. We have our EnergIIZE engaged. We are working on site planning that allow for the correct build out of a medium heavy duty vehicle. We're talking to the charger and the EV to make sure there's interoperability, that everything can communicate. And we're looking at the network or software to make us efficient and demand management. So there are a lot of pieces to pull together to foster the success of any project. But every note that we get, every piece of information that we get back, starting early and creating a project team of folks that are on the project, and maybe even a project manager or consultant to guide you through these pieces, is a key element to getting these projects to the ground successfully.
Right. Well, and a team like EnergIIZE could probably help you out with that as well and get you moving in the right direction.
That's what we're here for. We do have our public lane that'll be launching here October 19th. I'd like to see more folks in it. So again, if we wait until 2035 or 2033 to transition everything, we're going to be behind the eight ball, so to speak. And so we don't want to do that. We want to plan as early as possible. We want to set ourselves up for success. And yeah, absolutely. EnergIIZE, CalSTART in general, we have a lot of tools that help across the nation, places to scale out what we've done and help folks who are thinking of transitioning.
Right. Very cool. Well, I mean, clearly there's going to be a lot to talk about to come. I appreciate you taking the time to talk about public charging infrastructure today. And as this rolls out, I look forward to talking to you again very soon.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.